Yo, 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 yo. Welcome to the Lethal Collective. How we doing, ladies and gentlemen?
We doing.
Well, ladies first.
Big brain energy.
Yeah, I was waiting for the ladies.
Wow.
And gentlemen. Okay. So.
And gentlemen.
Doing good, man.
Yes.
Good to be back with you guys.
Hanging in there.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Good to hear.
Back, baby.
Yeah.
Well, let's say hello to some of our wonderful friends out there as well. We got Denisha Lane. Very excited for Jupiter Brain Time. Love it.
Yeah,
Fate's real excited. This is his episode today. So
yeah. He can barely contain himself.
That's right.
look at that.
He can.
I even got my
moving,
simulated house.
He is.
Are you gonna tickle some ivories? I just stole that joke, Craven. Get ready.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I'll share.
Am I tickling ivories, or is Jupiter Brain telling me to tickle ivories?
Oh, so are we even here by our own power? Maybe none of us are willingly even doing this.
Maybe we're not really here at all. Think about that.
That's true.
All just a simulation.
It all could be simulated.
Oh, we're going to get into it. I'm very excited to unpack this crazy bullshit. But beforehand, Russell Dorsey is saying, what's up, everyone? Smash that like button. Hope everyone is having a wonderful evening. Happy Monday, everyone. Hell yes, Russell. Happy Monday to you. Thanks for being here, my friend. Appreciate you. Oh, Val's Views is also here. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. Is it a happy Monday? I hope it is.
Yes.
Is everyone having a happy Monday?
It's just another manic Monday.
See?
Oh, boy. Wow,
that's what I think about.
You even sung it.
Yeah, man.
I could see him going down the road, like jamming out to Manic Monday.
Speeding at like 120 miles an hour to Manic Monday, trying to get to work.
Swerving in and out of traffic. Like,
oh, man.
We're writing the Lethal Collective movie as we speak.
Cars are just exploding in the background. People running in the background on fire, and I'm just like...
Kate and M is with us as well. What's up, Craven and panel? Specifically just Craven. He doesn't care about the panel. But that's okay.
We are the panel. We are the panel collective.
That's right.
Go.
The panel collective. Love it.
Craven
Julie's with us as well.
Collective is what it really should be.
Craven's collective. Oh.
Craven and those guys.
Yeah.
Those smelly fellas. Love it. Julie's with us as well. Hello. Welcome in. Welcome in.
Hey, Julie.
Big hello to everyone out there. We're just going to get right on into it. Very excited to talk about the Jupiter Brain, or as it's more commonly referred to as the Matryoshka Brain. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but we're just going to roll with it. This is in reference, of course, to the layered Russian dolls. Like, you know, the ones you like twist apart and then there's another fucking doll inside of those things?
Yes.
Yeah. Got a whole collection of them.
You can have a bunch of dolls in there. I dig that. See, me personally, I'm a fan
doll
of
into a doll into a doll.
Yeah, it's just infinite amount of dolls.
Right.
So
makes me think of like one of those Looney Tune cartoons where they actually showed a doll and then a doll and then a doll and then a doll and then a doll.
Exactly. There you go. Yeah. Crazy Russian dolls, man. But so this is technically it's a hypothetical megastructure that draws an insane amount of power from the burning star to drive its computer system. So this is like just a gigantic supercomputer that has the power to basically do a bunch of different things that we're going to talk about here. That could, you know, like simulate an entire other dimension. It could be, it's proof for the simulation theory, which is like we're all living in the Matrix. It could mean alternate realities, wormholes, a bunch of crazy shit we're going to get into in the future here. But the concept was first developed by Robert J. Bradbury, one of the many authors of Year Million Science and the Far Edge of Knowledge. So got to give credit to the big guy who came up with this in the first place.
Big guns.
The big guns.
Yeah.
So I mean, as far as like, so to simplify it for an audience or people that are watching this on the replay or whatever, because it does get very complex. Just think of it as essentially the greatest achievement mankind could ever create. So it basically would be a planet-sized supercomputer. So think of like your phone or like, you know, a computer, or if you're familiar with like quantum computing and quantum computers, imagine that times 1 billion. And essentially you would have a planetary big brain, a Jupiter brain, that could simulate worlds, have endless supply of power sources, could scan, the surrounding galaxies. It basically would be the crowning achievement. To really simplify it to understanding for anybody, like even a child, is it would basically be everything that is perceived of what a god is, right? Not necessarily a specific god, but what a god is. Somebody that could simulate realities, worlds, create universes, create people, could replicate itself, has endless supply of power and knowledge, could simulate entire probabilities and outcomes that are so complex beyond our reality, could create weather patterns, could change climates on planets, could literally do essentially anything, could control life, death, everything in between, make you immortal, have you, live an endless cycle of just crazy realities. And then from a mathematic perspective, and again, I'll try to simplify this because it does get complex, but essentially there are roughly throughout the history of existence about 100 billion people, right? And so when you take a human brain and its computing power, it equates to about 10 to the 36th power. So basically every single human mind that has ever existed, if you could collectively put it all together, that is the probability that you get 10 to the 36th computing power per second. Okay. And a Jupiter brain is 10 to the 42nd power, which means in a fraction of a second, like literally a blink of an eye, it could simulate all of existence from the beginning of time to the end of time. It is about as crazy of a reality. So then that, like Jake said, that branches into simulation theory, right? That we're all living in a simulation. Well, this computer could basically do that, simulate all of reality, simulate universes, create constructs such as time and gravity and space and all the things that we know. So it has sort of been something that has weighed on many scientists' minds. I mean, even Elon Musk, who everyone's familiar with, has talked about how he believes that it's very likely to be in a simulation. And a lot of very smart people think we are in a form of simulation. And there are even scientists actively trying to break us out of said simulation. And a lot of people think that if there ever was, it's because some species, that be us, that be something else, all essentially created this supercomputer. And then that branched out into creating our reality. And, and even from a scale from like a Jupiter brain, you can even scale it. So there are like levels to it. So obviously there's you could do one that taps into a star. You could do one that taps into a planet. You could do one that could tap into literally the size of a galaxy that could scan the entirety of the universe in seconds. And that we'll touch on some positives and negatives later in this live stream. But just to kind of give you an idea, it would also allow you to maybe lose my train of thought.
Sorry, Pete.
It would allow you to be able to scan for planetary threats, new planets. Like if our planet was dying, we could literally scan and find a new planet to go there. Again, we'll touch on that more here shortly, but it has a lot of pros. It has definitely a lot of cons to it, but as we know it, it's a very powerful computer. Go ahead, Jake.
Real quickly, I do want to just say to Denisha Lane throwing $2 out there, thank you so much. She's saying, "Hey everyone, love y'all. We love you too, Denisha.
We love you."
Thank you so much, Denisha. You're all right.
Thank you so much for the support, Denisha. We really appreciate it. Getting a little more into that too. I feel like something else I really like about, or something that I don't know. Maybe I'm terrified of this element actually. The Jupiter brain is it's so powerful. I don't even know if we should have it or not. It's the idea. There's multiple ways to approach it.
Right.
You could have it be built around a star, sucking all of its energy and using it to compute all these things that Fate was just talking about. You could use it with nanobots taking over all of Jupiter and replacing the atoms in a certain way to build a gigantic computer. It's insane. This kind of technology would put humans so far advanced beyond our understanding or current level right now. it would be so unpredictable and have so many unforeseen consequences, I feel. But Knight, the crew, how do you guys feel about all this?
Well, one thing I was going to say too, you hit on it on that last point, is that it's so powerful. You know, some of the things that it can do, it's almost hard to even comprehend, you know, kind of like what Fate was saying, as far as, you know, the thoughts, the abilities of any mind, you know, from the beginning of time to the end of time. You know, if you really sit back and think about this, like, wait a minute, what? How? You know, I mean, and that just shows kind of the limitations that we do have as far as to really be able to comprehend that. It's like, come on, man, it's really, really crazy. The thing that gets me is, you know, when we were trying to figure out more about it and talking about some of our talking points about the Jupiter brain, is things like other realities, you know, when you talk, or in other words, you know, for you guys that are watching, things that are very much like, you know, the Matrix, you know, like the movie The Matrix. Are we in a simulation? And if we are, how would we know? You know, because obviously if the Jupiter brain is that advanced, how would we be able to tell whether or not we're in a simulation or not? That's a scary thought, man. And I mean, not to even reference the movie, but that was one thing about the movie, at least in the beginning of the film, like as Neo was finding out I'm in the Matrix, and you know, you could take the red pill or the blue pill. I was thinking to myself, that's a very scary thought, you know, to be trapped inside of a simulation and not even being able to tell that you are. Of course, he was told. Otherwise, you know, he was just having these moments of deja vu, or things seemed odd every once in a while. And that's very true. You know, there's a lot of times things go on and I'm thinking, wow, that's kind of odd. Or you have moments of deja vu where you see something that you've never seen before, but yet it seems so familiar. And things like that really are intriguing to me, you know. Just
well, have you guys ever seen the movie? Have you ever seen the movie The Mandela Effect? It's like a horror sci-fi movie.
Yes.
No,
I know what the Mandela Effect is.
There's a movie called The Mandela Effect. It's actually a really good movie. And basically, it's this guy. To summarize the movie, it's basically this guy that discovers that he's in a simulation. Like, there's an event that happens that kind of has him spiraling, and then somebody like proposes this idea, and then he kind of just becomes consumed by it. And you see, like, even in like the simulation, like it will like correct itself, right? And like, you know, so if you're starting to stumble across the possibility of, oh, we are in a simulation, which ties into like what Knight's saying, how would you know? The reality is you wouldn't, right? Because I mean, if the Jupiter brain really does exist and we are living in a Jupiter brain simulation, that means it is literally the Jupiter brain telling you that we are in a simulation. Like, every thought, every idea, you know, even the idea of like free will doesn't exist. It would all be predetermined. Right. Yes, you may have the perception of free will, you may have the perception of conscious thought, but in reality you have none of it, right? Everything would be the Jupiter brain. So even if we did, like, let's say we were starting to stumble across the possibility that we are in a simulation, we wanted to break out, like, the Jupiter brain could just switch that off and we'd all forget about it, like erase and delete like a file all of our like even just the thought from your mind. So kind of goes into like what is, you know, like, would a Jupiter brain even allow us, right? Like, so it's kind of goes in the argument of like, we're not in a simulation, because if we were in a simulation, it wouldn't even be a thought that we were living in a simulation, because why would the simulation want its creation to be self-conscious of the environment it's in? Right. And who is it? Like Neil deGrasse Tyson, for a long time, he truly believed we were in a simulation. And then somebody explained it to him, like, so there's really only, and I'm paraphrasing, but there's only so many possible outcomes. So either, because we are so far and away from the technology to reach that, to be able to get to a Jupiter brain, which I'll dive into the ins and outs of like how we could create it here in a moment, but I want to hear Craven's thoughts too. But like, as far as like Neil deGrasse Tyson says, he said, you know, like, either A, we are the first ever to be simulated because we don't have the technology. Like, think of video games. We simulate video games that are highly advanced and modern to the time, right? So if we were in a simulation, our reality would be much more modern, and we wouldn't have been from like the Stone Age. We would have been in a reality that was much more advanced from the get-go. And yeah, you have just like levels in a video game, you progress and get better and blah, blah, blah. But either we are the first, and we are basically the Snake version. If you guys remember the game Snake, like we are that, or Pong, we're that version of the simulation, or we are the ones that will create the simulation. So more likely than not, it's one of those scenarios. But Craven, what are your thoughts?
Wow. It's a lot of stuff in 15 minutes. So, wow. You know, I think, I mean, look, I know that this is, I think, Fate, you just made a really, really good point as far as if anyone out there is, because there are folks, and I don't want to diminish anyone or anyone's views, because they're actually one of my relative, I guess you could say, does believe that we're in the Matrix. I've known a couple of people. Well, one I didn't know, but I know of one of my professors in college. There was a student, and I didn't know the student, but they firmly believed that they were living in a Matrix. Now, of course, it's interesting because the people that have held that view that I'm aware of anyway, I'm not saying everybody, but there's usually some moral issue that makes that viewpoint for them stick. Because if you think about, you know, if you say that everything we're doing is predetermined, it's all a basically X's and O's and 1s and 2s and 3s and code, and we're following, then there's really no moral obligation to behave any particular way we want. So some folks will use that as like, well, I can live this particular way, or I can participate in this kind of behavior, because at the end of the day, there's no accountability, because it's all just an illusion anyway. And so I'm going to indulge in every hedonistic thing I want. And so it's interesting. And again, I'm not saying that everyone that holds that view believes that. I'm just saying that these particular individuals it was very much an excuse to validate how they're living. And so, you know, because if there's no God, I'm not going to get too into this with religion or anything, but just at a very high level, if there's no God that we're accountable to, a creator, then all bets are off. There's no consequences for anything. So that's the highest level I can, just without getting too deep in the weeds. But, you know, but your point, Fate, I think for those out there who are concerned about this, like if there's anyone out there that's watching and you're really like struggle with something like this and it's really bothering you, that this, you know, I think Fate's words, I'm going to repeat, should give you some comfort. Because if we were in a simulation and this Jupiter brain, whatever you want to call it, was so obviously smart and able to do all this, we would not be able to have that self-awareness that this could be a simulation. I don't believe that. And I think what Fate said is 100% right. If you're going to create this, if you're this AI, whatever, then the people that are in the simulation, us, are never going to question our reality. The very fact that the four of us and you watching can question reality, we can talk about it and wonder and kick things back and forth. That to me is enough. Of course, I have a lot of other reasons, but just at a very high level, that is a good enough reason to not believe we're in a simulation. Because I don't believe that they would want us to question our reality and somehow form a mutiny. I mean, you know, look, I know we're just people, but if we're, you know, you get thousands of people together, who knows? You got to make a great movie.
Well, think of a video.
Well,
game,
there's
right?
been
Like,
movies that have done it.
There have been Skynet. Hello.
Right.
And well, why
There you go.
Go
just to
ahead.
throw
Go
my
ahead,
2
Jerry.
cents into that real quick is like the other thing with that is like if we were in a Jupiter brain, like wouldn't it just construct people or simulations whatever in a way that we didn't think about those things? Like it's like why
Exactly.
would they make us think about the Jupiter brain? Why would they
Right.
make us think about Roku's obelisk, which is or is that what it is? Obelisk? Yeah. Words are tough.
Rubik's Cube.
Basilisk is what it is. I think.
Basilisk.
Obelisk is something else. So like, why would they make us think about these things otherwise? You know, like you could just rewrite like reality to be something else where it's just people living their normal lives, doing whatever kind of work you want. If
Right.
you were someone that created the Jupiter brain and then made it your way. So I'm kind of with Craven on this one. I feel like we're not in a Jupiter brain, but I'm not saying that that's not a possibility in the future though. Like this is technology I feel like we could work our way up to, which is what's scary about it to me.
Right.
Can I argue the other side for a moment?
Absolutely.
Go
Sure.
for it.
Okay.
I was
So-
we're
I was
here.
waiting for it.
Okay. So, because like I said, I argued the argument for why we're not in a simulation. So here's an argument for why we are. Okay, put it in like a biblical sense, right? Many people believe in God, whether it's a Christianic God, whether it's a Greek God, whatever. Usually, most religions or most beliefs, there is that one God, right? Whether you have demigods or angels or whatever, there is that one, Zeus, whomever, right? Well, when you think of that, and you think of, okay, if we were created by a said God, then that God made us consciously aware of its existence and to question God, right? Like, so for example, like you are allowed to openly question God. You have that free will. You have that ability. Whether you choose to or not is up to you. And you can, like Craven was saying, like we have, our guidelines to live by, and it's kind of the moral compass and stuff like that. And you could still choose to do so. Again, as I mentioned earlier, a Jupiter brain is essentially every idea of what God as we know it is. The ability to create in life, the ability to, control universes and everything, like simulate worlds, right? From a biblical sense, right? Existence is from a blink of an eye, right? Like, so that is what a Jupiter brain is. And so you can make the argument that a Jupiter brain is allowing us free conscious because it could simulate that. It could literally simulate your conscious thought as if, a God would. And if you really boil it down, okay, most people believe in some form of an afterlife, right? There are many people that don't, but there are a lot of people that believe, you go to heaven, or you go here, or you go there, or wherever, right? Well, then when you boil it down to a finite point, then essentially we are in a simulated reality, whether it's created by a God or a computer. And so we have a lot of the same abilities, whether it's God or Jupiter brain. And you can kind of make that argument that, like, yes, although why would a Jupiter brain want to allow us to be there? We like it's the great struggle, right? So like if we could create a Jupiter brain, right, that says like that has the replication abilities of like a God as we know it. One scientist is, I don't remember the name off the top of my head, but one of the scientists had suggested, if there is a God, would God allow that to even happen? Right? Because now you could simulate you would have essentially, let's say I created a Jupiter brain, I would have the ability to control life, death, reality. I mean, literally everything. I am now at the point where I could play God. Now, if there is a God that allowed us to create a Jupiter brain, then that God is beyond it.
Right.
But there is the question of like, at what point does it stop? And the reason I go in like with the God biblical aspect of it is to scale it down to a point for a Jupiter brain. So again, imagine Jupiter brain, because I'm trying to explain this to where people, not trying to get biblical, but like explain it to where people have a grasp and understanding. So say you scale Jupiter brain to equivalent to God, right? Well, a Jupiter brain, if we are living in that simulation, in that reality, at what point does a Jupiter brain allow us to stop? right? Tower of Babel, right? Build all the way to heaven. He says stop. They don't do it. Boom, here goes the tower. Does a Jupiter brain get to that point? Yes, we are conscious and aware that we are in a simulation, or we can ask the question if we are in a simulation. But at what point does a Jupiter brain intervene and say, okay, children, enough is enough. Stop that. That makes sense?
A point you just made there, it's like, I think Blucka's thing here was kind of interesting. He's saying, I'd imagine a simulation would want to see every scenario play out till its end and reset. So, like, if you were someone in control of this, like, is that what you would want to do? You'd want to see, like, every, like, possible scenario, essentially, to, you could, like, almost, like, look through it. You could simulate reality and be like, what's the best possible outcome if I do this instead? And you could, the Jupiter brain could run that in less than a second, which is like an unbelievable amount of power that one person could have, which I think is like, that's kind of horrifying. Like, you could find whatever the best case scenario is in every single decision for yourself using something like this, which to me is like,
but
that's terrifying.
Well, yeah, and I was just going to say, I mean, but the other thing too, kind of like what Fate is saying, if it is that powerful, in that, just so many steps ahead of anything that we could even imagine, then perhaps that is one of the situations it's already thought of way beyond where we're at, as far as to say, okay, you do have choice, you do have the capacity to question, you question anything. I mean, sometimes we question whatever, how much money am I going to make next year? Whatever. So you can question anything, including the idea of your reality, what's out there in space, what's beyond our galaxy, what's a multiverse and all those types of things. So in other words, maybe you're right. I mean, it's that powerful that it's far beyond our ability to even question our own reality. In other words, it allows us to even, as far as what we think, get close to that edge. Oh, wait a minute, we are in the Matrix. Well, it's eons beyond that, as far as the possibilities and being able to control, what is going on. That is a scary thought. It's a terrifying thought. In other words, just to go back to parallel it back to the movie. Okay, so Neo is told by Morpheus, you're in the Matrix, here's a pill, let's get you out of this, buddy. And you're like, okay, cool, I was saved. Well, if we're talking about this capacity for this Jupiter brain, it's way beyond what the machines were in the Matrix. You know what I'm saying? Which is scary. I mean, and even in the Matrix, they were talking about how this is what they say. This is the 6th version of the Matrix. Yeah. We've already gone through this process. There's already been an awakening and a revolution of the humans 5 other times. And these are the reasons why, people, the reality was too perfect, or this reality was, too much evil and this and that. So I guess what I'm saying is that is a terrifying thought, that it's still that far beyond us, beyond our comprehension. Terrifying thought, man.
And I think what makes it even scarier than the Matrix, though, is like we might not even be people right now. We might just be simulations of another version of ourselves from planet Earth that someone else is manipulating to find a certain outcome of something. So it's like we might think this is flesh and bone, but truly it's just like a bunch of bullshit that someone else is manipulating to figure out something selfishly for themselves, And to me, that's even scarier than the Matrix, man. It's like, it's one thing to be trapped inside of a simulation and there is a theoretical way out, but we might not even be our real selves. There could be another Jake out there. There could be another Knight, another Craven, like that's horrifying to me. It's like, I might not even be myself, even though I think I am.
Well, to add,
we're getting really deep into it.
I thought you were.
Well, to add to that, without going down too many rabbit holes, we could go a million ways with this, but like, so, and this could actually be a good talking point because there's a new research paper that somebody just released. But you look at things like the pyramids, and many people believe that there was, even a lot of researchers and stuff believe that there was a advanced civilization before us, right? Lost City of Atlantis, things like that, right? And there was a new research paper that came out that basically dived into that and the possibility and the likelihood, because over our planet, as far as we know, has existed for, you know, hundreds of billions of years or whatever it is, but we're only a small speck on the overall length of our planet. And just over the natural course of time, if there could have been an advanced civilization far beyond us. I mean, make us look pathetic, but over just the course of time, if they bailed off the planet for natural disaster, or they just were like, hey, we're done with this planet, let's go somewhere else. Just over the course of time, there would be no remnants over, you know, like we find fossils and stuff, which even those are only created by a very circumstantial sequence of events. Like it's not something that's just super common, right? So even like if we ended, like let's say right this second, life ceased to exist on this planet, and you had all the structures, all the buildings, everything, in, you know, a couple 100 million years, nothing would be here. It would just be desert wasteland and oceans, and the earth would look completely different. Like everything would just be completely different. So it goes into like what you were talking about, like with the simulation. Like what if we are, you know, the fifth version of this? Well, what if, this is a scary thought, what if we are the fourth, fifth, sixth version of said civilization, and every time we reach a point, the Jupiter brain just wipes us out and cleans the board, and the Earth just, you know, flushes itself clean, rebuilds, restructures, boom, new life sprouts, right? And new universe is created, because even from a universal scale, right? There's thoughts that the Big Bang was created from a dying universe. So the universe expands, reaches a boiling point, and then boom, collapses on itself, and then creates this bane, and that sparks and creates a new universe. What if that is the beginning and the end of the Jupiter brain? Hey,
I think you just erased Craven.
I'm back.
Right when you did that, it was like perfect timing. You did that, and then his like thing went off. I was like, "Oh my god,
Stage left.
Steven,
It's happening.
are you okay, man?"
Raven's gone.
Jupiter brain says you guys are getting too close to the truth. I one you out.
The Jupiter brain's shutting this down. It's like, stop.
We all just vanish.
Exactly.
What if you could travel to the future and realize that this conversation was the beginning, as insignificant as it may seem, that this was the beginning of sparking that awareness, and that
butterfly
was the
effect.
beginning. That exactly, and this was the beginning of the end of this particular version of what we perceive as reality. That's crazy, because everything has to start somewhere. Right? I mean, it's a chain of events, you know. So we decided to talk about this today. We did the you know, Jake doing the research and thinking about, okay, well, these are interesting things to talk about. You know, Fate saying, okay, well, this is the things that I know. This is the things that I know, and it's part of a chain that leads to that. That's creepy shit. I'm just being real.
Well, just the name of our channel, that would make it more significant. The Lethal Collective. If we were responsible for destroying our entire world's existence as we know it.
Thanks, guys.
The Lethal Collective has spoken.
We created the Jupiter brain.
Created me this way.
Yeah.
We're going to be called the Pink Cinderellas.
Oh my
God. We should because we do have other points that we want to talk about. But real quick, I want to cover how, like, a couple ways that we could create a Jupiter brain, because there are several ways we could get there, and then we can dive into other points. I know Knight wanted to talk about some points and stuff, and so did Craven. But so there's like the easiest way to do it, as far as like a planetary aspect goes, would be nanotechnology. Right? Something Jake spoke on briefly earlier. And basically the idea is you basically would create nanobots that are self-replicating, and they could replicate constantly. And yes, you might think, like, how could something, you know, microscopic literally just tear apart an entire, like a planet the size of Jupiter, you know, and create, you know, harness all of its resources and energy and power. But if it could self-replicate, even something that's microscopic, in the matter of days, would be, I mean, like the size bigger than Jupiter. And so you could just have a small, one little thing, just like a flea, land on a planet and begin to start replicating. In the matter of days, you literally have, gazillions of these little things, and you'd be able to terraform, you'd be able to tear down, you'd be able to rebuild, you'd be able to basically do anything with the planet, harness that energy, build the structure with those nanobots of the Jupiter brain. If you wanted to and you needed to, you could create a Dyson sphere, which basically would allow us to harness the power of like a sun or a star, and then that could be our energy source. Think of that as like a reactor or like a battery, right? So you could use this sun, if you wanted to power a Jupiter brain for years or whatever. And then once you created a Jupiter brain, then at that point it's self-sustaining. So it could like if the sun is starting to die out, the Jupiter brain could just create a new sun like at that point, because it could literally simulate things. So once you would be able to create the Jupiter brain, then you'd have essentially an endless power source of it, and then you could replicate and go bigger with the nanotechnology or so on and so forth. But more likely than not, it would be a Dyson sphere, or it would be nanotechnology, or a combination of the two, right? To where you basically use the nanotechnology to basically harvest the planet, the Dyson sphere to basically contain it, and then boom, there you go. So that would be the most conceivable way of doing so.
So it's possible. Like it's essentially we
could
get
to
theoretically we could get to that point at some point.
Yes.
In theory, yeah.
We are a very long way away from that. Because I mean, you're talking about different types of civilization, which I don't want to go into too much because that's a whole rabbit hole in and of itself. Maybe we'll talk about like different type 1, type 2, type 3.
But we have the seeds, you know what I mean? We have the seeds of these. Like we have nanobot technology. We could technically get to a point where that's so advanced that it could just like eat all of Jupiter, use the materials from that to build a gigantic fucking thing like this, huge supercomputer that could do any of these things, which once again, to me is terrifying. I hope this never happens, but it's potential to do it.
Think of how far technology has advanced even over the last 100 years, right? I mean, even think of aeroplanes. Right. In 100-year span, we went from the Wright brothers, who could barely get off of the soil, to literally the F-1, stealth bomber, in literally 100-year span. Orville Wright himself said it would be impossible to travel out of state, let alone around the world. And within 10 years, we figured that out, right? So now take the advancements in technology now, where you had a computer, 30, 40 years ago, a computer was the size of your house. To where now it's the size of a pocket in your pocket, right? So, and those advancements are just going to continue to improve. Technology is just going to get more advanced. Smarter minds are going to continue to improve. We're going to create through AI. We're going to be able to kick the door down on a lot of things, which is terrifying in and of itself. I mean, this is a conversation that could span forever type of podcast if we really wanted to. But yeah, I mean, it's not the fact that it is an achievable accomplishment is terrifying. It's terrifying.
Right.
Oh yeah.
It's not some weird idea where it's oh, I would love to go to an alternate universe where I'm Iron Man or something like that, where it's we don't even know if that necessarily exists. There's theories, there's ideas that exists, but we don't know that for a fact yet. But a Jupiter brain is an idea and a theory that is actually achievable at the rate we are going as far as technology goes. It's terrifying.
Well, the other thing about it too is the idea, because we were talking about some of the things that it could achieve or accomplish, simulations and so forth. And it's a lot of scary things, including the idea of a different type of reality. But what if we think about the things that are good, when you talk about the idea of its infinite power, and Jake had mentioned the whole idea of the energy crisis, so there's some things that the Jupiter brain, obviously it's awe-inspiring, it's terrifying as well, but some things that are wow, that's so cool, that this would allow us to fix things like the energy crisis. We wouldn't have to, as far as with our own planet, not to get on the soapbox or anything, but we wouldn't have to basically kill our own planet, to create energy and all these other types of things that we do. So that aspect of it is interesting to me as well, is that it's not just that it is terrifying in a way to think of something that has that much power, but there are pros to it as well, or I should say possible pros. Let me word it like that.
If utilized correctly, right?
Yeah.
It's just like anything.
Correctly. Yes.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
anything.
just like
If it's in the
anything
wrong
else.
hands, it's destructive. If it's in the right hands,
Yeah.
it can be great. If we ever did create a Jupiter brain, there definitely would have to be safeguards, which something that advanced and something that like out of our realm of possibility, I don't even know how you would begin to create those safeguards, right? Because like, again, it could you could create the safeguards and it would be so far advanced and intelligent to
just
you
blow past
that it could just
override them,
delete those safeguards itself, and then put safeguards on you to where you can't even touch it, to where you can't even intervene. So there would have to be safeguards, and there'd have to be like, this would have to be a global like effort, in the sense of like, like if America, we all live in America, so it'd be great if America created it, but like even America, like they wouldn't be able to be the sole person, because I mean, you're talking that kind of power. I mean, think of what it could do to even Americans. Like, think of what it could do to other countries. I mean, you could literally erase, like, Russia or China or something like that is just, they're upsetting us today. Boom, you're gone. Take a vacation for a week and just delete their entire existence for a week and be like, okay, did you learn your lesson? You need another week? Like, so there would have to be safeguards. There have to be things. But if you could create the safeguards and contain it, I mean, you're talking universal power sources for us, right? You're talking, we would be able to not only live in our planet, but we'd be able to live and terraform the universe. We'd be able to travel. Like, Jake could live on another planet, 100 million light years away, and I could beat him in seconds. Right? I mean, you're talking wormholes and portals and all kinds of stuff that this thing would be able to create. We'd be able to contain black holes and prevent that. Our planet is eventually going to die. Like, sooner or later, we are going to cease to exist, whether our sun burns out or the planet itself takes us out. We'd be able to control that. We'd be able to keep the sun going forever. We'd be able to keep the planet from dying. We'd be able to control the planet. See,
but is it too good to be true? Like that's the true question of this whole thing. It's like, would we be able to control something that powerful? That's literally and mathematically more powerful than every single human that has ever existed on the planet put together, like how we were talking about before. Would we be able to find a way to, put a harness on that? I don't know. That's what's terrifying about it.
Can we trust humanity? That's the question. Can we trust humanity? We've seen this in history time and time again, with the advances that we've had, where things can be developed, created, thought of, and you have the best of intentions. But then you come to those different like moral forks in the road, as far as, well, let's say we created such and such for the purpose of X, Y, and Z, but it could also be used to do this, and this will let us achieve goal A, goal B, goal C. So it's like, I don't know, man. It's, I don't know if I would even want to trust humanity with it. I really don't.
Would you create, so if you created a Jupiter brain, did you just create Vision or did you just create Ultron? Is the question.
Right.
That's the problem with Jupiter brain. Is like, if you created a Jupiter brain and it was Vision, then it would want to help. It would want to make us better. It would be very thankful to just our existence. But if you created Ultron, then now that gets into the Basilisk theory and stuff like that, which, I mean, Jake, I know you're itching to talk about it. This could be a good spin-off into that, but like, that would be the concern. It's like, if you created Ultron, you could have this thing that looks at it and goes, why would I want humanity? Well, I could create something better. I could erase all of this and now so it just, to me, that's what it comes down to. But go ahead, Jake, take it over.
Mm-hmm. So while there are infinite possibilities with what a Jupiter brain could do, what Fate's talking about here is essentially true AI. Like, as we know, artificial intelligence right now, it's really not that. Like, the big reason why me and like many other like people in the space right now are very against like AI being utilized for like media, movies, writing things for people instead of just having it be real people is because AI actually has not reached the point where it can think on its own. It steals shit from the internet and just compiles it together. Here's a script. Like, that's why, like, me personally, I'm very against AI right now. But true AI theoretically would have a conscience of its own. And that's why we get down to a conversation like this, where it's like, would it be Vision? Would it be Ultron? Would it be something that would want to destroy humanity and would be able to effortlessly, or do the exact opposite and innovate? But the question comes down to, what is innovation for humanity beyond our understanding? And that's what this is all about. Roko's basilisk, which is essentially artificial intelligence that would torture us to a degree we would never be able to even fathom in this reality right now for not creating or aiding in the creation of it in the first place. So let's say, right, we could build a Jupiter brain right now, and we do it. Now, what ends up happening is that it would develop its own consciousness and then want to basically seek revenge upon every single human being that did not aid in the creation of it, besides its creators. Maybe it thinks that way. Let's say theoretically, right? That would mean it could bring all of us like back to life with the power that it has, the unfathomable amount of power that it does have. Bring us all back to life, torture us for eons, and just the thought of it, just actually having the thought of like knowing that this could exist means, and then us not doing anything about it means that we're fucked. So basically, I have screwed all of you by even suggesting this in the first place, if this is a possibility in the future. But I sorry to everyone watching right now, but I do want to go around the panel, and I want to hear everyone's thoughts on this, because I think this is such an interesting thought experiment. Craven, do you think just because now that I've pitched this to you, that at some point in the future, Roko's basilisk will try to torture you for an infinite eons of possibilities and horrible pain? Do you think that's a possibility? Like, do you have any thoughts about that? I don't know. I'm just curious. It's a thought experiment more than anything.
Well, the short answer is no. That sums it up for me. Yeah, no, it's an interesting thought, and it's fun to go down these unique and different avenues of thought that sometimes in life we don't slow down enough to stop and just do this. So it's fun to think about exploring these possibilities. You know, it's an interesting thought. I mean, certainly if we were to create, and it's interesting too, because, and you know, if we keep saying we, I guess it's humanity, right? We would have to create this thing. But if whoever creates it, whatever group is doing this, there has to be somebody that holds the keys to the car. Somebody that's got the keys. And to me, the scary thing is not only what the AI can do at that level, but the person that's got the keys in their hands is who I'm more scared of than the Jupiter brain. Because you know, we asked the question, can you trust humanity, just a minute ago? And I say we have enough demonstrated history to say no, we absolutely cannot, because we are flawed individuals. We are flawed human natures, and we tend to want to lean towards power, greed, all these things. Where in the right moderation, they're great. But when you're talking about a scenario like this, my concern is even the most well-intended person who's going in with pure motives, it will slowly corrupt them when you start to realize, oh, I could do this, I could control that. And my concern would be we turn into a little mustache man scenario from the 30s. And that's what we have ruling not just a country, the entire world, the whole universe, everything. and then forget about it. There's no getting out of that, dude. Because if that happens, we're all at the mercy of this thing, and that's where you're going to have the horror sci-fi films you can all think of. That's the reality we'd be living in. So, and it goes into your question, would this thing come back and torture us? If Little Mustache Man was that type of person controlling things, absolutely. And they would take pleasure in that. So we would be all mess. It'd be bad, bro. So
let's hope Charlie Chaplin never gets a hold of this thing.
Charlie Chaplin, you know it,
right?
You know it, man.
That's too funny.
But you guys know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to say the name. We're not even going to go there on YouTube. But the point is, I'm more worried about the corruptible nature of man than I am about a programmed AI. Because ultimately, we're the ones that are going to be the ones that would mess up our own creation. Because we aren't God. We don't have those unchangeable attributes. Our attributes can change daily. And that's the problem. I don't trust us. Any of us. I wouldn't trust myself. We're too easily corruptible in the right scenario. So those are my thoughts.
Fade, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, well, to piggyback on what Craven's saying too, also, like if you were in charge of a Jupiter brain, you wouldn't be able to have emotion or any like it would, because the problem is we all have our own beliefs and we have our own thoughts. So even if you were the purest of the pure, you're still going to have beliefs and things that you're going to implement on people that may not necessarily be the best for the general people, right? It may be great for a majority, but that's not the general people. But to dive into like the thoughts of like just where we're at, like as far as like think of like hell. Right? Like, what if we already are in that simulation? What if we are the ones that didn't aid in creating the Jupiter brain? If we really are in a Jupiter brain simulation, and our form of hell and our punishment is to forever live this cycle of destruction and death and disease and X, Y, and Z, and and we are like Earth is just that. We are the ones that didn't aid in the creation of the Jupiter brain. So it's like, okay, we're just going to tuck you away on this little corner where you're just going to have to spend forever, and you're going to have to watch loved ones die, and you're going to have to deal with X, Y, and Z. It's just an interesting thought. But in reality, if we ever get to the point of a Jupiter brain, it won't be a person that is responsible for that. It will be a lesser version of said AI. So, which the truly scary thing is, if we end up creating a Jupiter brain later on down the line, it won't be us creating it. It will be a advanced intelligence that we created that surpasses us, that then creates something else, and so on and so forth, so on and so forth, so on and so forth, until we reach that Jupiter brain. It is very unlikely that, I, Tyler, the scientist, will just go like create the technology to create a Jupiter brain. No, I will be creating, the nanotechnology, and then that will advance, and then that will grow, and then somebody else will take the mantle, and then they'll, configure that to terraform our planet and fix our planet and help solve things here. And then somebody else will take that over, and that will probably at that point be an advanced AI that doesn't have the emotions and the feelings and the things that I talked about. But the problem is that before we even get to a Jupiter brain, right, we'll probably be either all converted to AI by that point, or we'll be obsolete, and there'll already be you are obsolete. If you guys remember the Twilight Zone episode, so we will basically be obsolete, and some advanced AI that eventually was through generations of creating, thus creates that. But then even then, that problem that means that you'd have AI responsible for that. And if we're already their understudy, or we are already maybe even imprisoned by the AI that we create. Imagine, as Craven said, the mustache man. What if that is the AI? What if the AI looks at us as that AI is Ultron, and Ultron now creates the Infinity Stones, and which is the Jupiter brain. Again, trying to put it
put it in the terms of Marvel.
Wow, I see that.
Yeah, well, the MCU never fails.
That people would understand, right? Because
well, real quick, the Jupiter brain is telling me that this simulated version of myself has to urinate, so I'm gonna take care of that real quick. But you guys keep going, keep giving all this. Give me 2 seconds.
Yeah, but like,
is it really urine? Is it really a bladder? I mean, is it even real?
That's a good question. Is he really peeing, or is it just just digitized?
It's all a simulation.
Exactly.
It's all a simulation. But no, like again, to kind of put in comparison, is that like, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, again, like I said, Ultron creates the Infinity Stone, or assembles the Infinity Stones, it creates the Infinity Gauntlet, and now has control over everything. Right? Like that's what it would essentially be. Very likely it won't be us as we know it, flesh and blood, that creates a Jupiter brain and that then has control over it. It will be a form of AI. But do all those have like the safety nets in between it, or does it become a Skynet situation where it just kind of runs rampant and does its own thing, where you know, hopefully we have safeguards in place throughout the course, so that way when we do get that AI and it does create that Jupiter brain is loyal to said AI, but that set AI is loyal to us. And so therefore we technically just like through the AI software, through Jarvis, we created Vision rather than through Jarvis just created Ultron, and Ultron's ready to wipe out of humanity. So that's the goal.
There's
hopefully,
steps.
Hopefully we're Tony Stark that creates Jarvis, that then creates Vision, and at the end of the day, Vision is still loyal to Tony to an extent, right? It's still its own thing. It's still like, it's not gonna, like, if you're like, hey Vision, you know, I want you to do, you know, clean my toilets, like Vision's gonna look at you and go, you know, I could just end you, right? Like, you know, it doesn't want to destroy humanity. It does have a form of loyalty to Tony. So that's the hope, is that we are Tony that creates the Jarvis, that Jarvis creates the Vision, but through the chain, Tony is still the one at the helm. But at any moment that could flip. So what about you, Knight? What are your thoughts?
Wow. No, man. I mean, like I said, it's really, really interesting. And one thing, by using the idea of the MCU is as a way to parallel it, it's just really, again, to think about the chain of events. Like you said, you know, Tony was trying to do something good in the movie. You know, we're just using it as an extension of us. He was trying to do something good, and by using his base level intelligence, creating Jarvis, you know, to do a lot of great things, help him around the house, help him build things, help him to be faster, more efficient, and so forth. And then eventually, like you said, it leads to Ultron. That's what I was, you know, that's what I was kind of saying earlier, is that is the scary part of it all, is that, you know, we're on a course to always try to advance our technology, you know, and whether it means it's, you know, 100 years from now, 500 years from now, 50, or even 5, you know, that's the thing that's really interesting, you know, when you really think about it. And it's no different than any of our other, you know, advances in technology that we've had. And like you said, in the last 100 years, you know, we've come so far with different things, whether it's flying, you know, whether it's cars. Look at cars, you know, I mean, same idea. Who would have thought that we'd be having, you know, cars that would be able to, you know, propel themselves? That's crazy, you know. Can you imagine going back, if you could go back in time and saying that to the people that had first driven an actual car, how ridiculous it was? You know what I'm saying? And saying, well, one day this is going to happen. They'd probably look at you and just be like, F you, you know what I mean? But that's the chain.
You stupid idiot.
That's exactly
right. That's the chain of events, man. You know, it's like, you know, taking like a bomb and planting it back into the Stone Ages and seeing if they can figure out how it works. Is just they can't do that. It's just unthinkable. So, anyways, an awesome topic. So many rabbit trails that it's not even funny, man. Terrifying stuff, but also interesting things as well.
Yeah, one of the things that the whole basilisk thing is what had me the most interested reading up about that. It's just like you could be screwed by not even doing, literally not doing anything. You could be screwed if we ever were to invent something like this and it turned evil. And I think that's horrifying. I'm like, that's so interesting. That's so, I need to make that into a sci-fi horror movie, basically. I really love it. But something else I wanted to bring up tonight is that we have just started channel memberships that Craven set up. So I thought I'd let him take a little moment to talk all about that fun shit.
Hey, that's for an intro. That's what I'm talking about. That was a good lob. Yeah, it was. Alley-oop, baby. Let me slam the dunk. So here we go, guys. You've asked for it before many, many times. And we were like, well, we got to figure things out, yada, 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 yada. Well, we have figured it out. So, guys, we've relaunched the channel, new direction, as we talked about in our last show. You guys are witnessing it tonight. A taste of where we're going with the show. Lots of more surprises still to come in future episodes. But, guys, one of the things we want to share is right now, literally right now, you can become the very first channel members of the Lethal Collective. Listen, only one person can say they were the first, and only one group of people can say they were a part of the first show that we offered it. Now's your opportunity. While we're live, you can click the join button. One membership level, that's it. One membership level, $9.99 a month. You get priority response. You get custom emojis. You get recognition. And here's the really cool thing, guys. Check this out. You will have the opportunity, only a channel member can email us every month with a suggested topic for our show. You literally could be providing the topic of discussion like Jupiter Brain is tonight. You could send us in an idea, something that's spooky, creepy, conspiracy theory, any of this kind of stuff, and we will review it, and we may select it for one of our shows live, and you'll get recognition in the show for providing the topic as well, and you can do that every single month. So, guys, listen, jump in right now in the inaugural episode for channel memberships. Right now, it's live. It's ready to go. Click join. You're in the inner circle of the Lethal Collective.
And I do want to say the join button is right there next to the subscribe button. So if you're already subscribed, thank you. We appreciate it, first of all. But then go ahead and hit the join button, too, if you feel so inclined. We would all appreciate it here at the Lethal Collective.
We would, absolutely.
We all would. And listen, it really supports, not only does it give you that opportunity and the perks that will come with it, but you also have the opportunity to help support the channel, which means a great deal to us. It gives us more resources. The more we're able to do things, branch out, expand, all those things that we want to do. We have a lot of ideas. All right. Merchandise is coming. It's all coming, guys. So this all plays a factor with your support, not only through super chats, but through channel memberships. So last thing I'll say, then Fate, I know you probably have something you want to chat about as well with it. I just want to say this, guys. We greatly appreciate you. And this will be a tremendous way to help us grow the channel for you. All right. So become a member. Let's go. Let's see who's going to do it today.
Do it.
Yeah, just do it.
Yes, just
what
do
are
it.
you doing? Yeah, hit that button. I mean, it's like we were talking about it because I know many of you want to support the channel and help with the channel memberships, which we're very thankful for. I already see like Wayne was like, I don't know what's up. Look, so what's wrong with Australian money? But you got to keep in mind, like there's 4 of us, so
right.
if we did $1 as an entry point, now you're talking like we each get like 10 cents, right? It's like at that point, it's not even worth it. But also, we wanted to find a way because we do want you guys to have the ability to kind of help us with topics, right? Like when I first started Fate Decided, I got flooded with emails of people that were like, hey, we want you to share our story, right? Because that's something we want to do here on the Lethal Collective. Start, reviewing like videos of like scary stuff or, sharing viewer stories and stuff. But how do we pick and choose that? How do we kind of navigate through that? Because if we just opened up the floodgates, then we're going to get, it happened to me, get thousands and hundreds of just various stories of people. And then people are like, why aren't you sharing my story? Why'd you say this? So it's just like, okay, well, let's keep it simple. We'll have the channel memberships. That way you can be more engaged. You can help us navigate that. We can, see your stories. It kind of shortens the pool, right? And kind of, and rewards you for helping us, for supporting the channel. Thus, you get the reward, you get the recognition, you get those types of things. So just something I wanted to throw out there. And we appreciate it. Like we said, hit that join button, be the first channel members on this channel. And we got a lot of positive things heading in the right direction. And this is just the beginning.
Yes.
So just do it.
Do it.
Absolutely. That's right.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
But moving back onto the Jupiter that is the brain. So let's dive into, because we've talked about a lot of the pros and cons and things like that, but also what would be some like moral dilemmas, right? Like that, I think that'd be a good point. Oh, Julie, thank you so much. Our first member.
Julie just become a member.
Hey! Wow.
Look at that.
Julie, you did it. You are the very first channel member of the Lethal Collective. That is fantastic.
That is so cool.
You will always be number one, Julie.
Did the Jupiter brain make you do
always.
That?
No one can ever take that away.
The Jupiter brain made it so.
Never gonna give you up.
Never gonna let you. Oh gosh,
Julie, you're officially in our ring of honor of the channel. As our first channel member. That's so cool.
Yes, thank you. We really do
Very
appreciate
cool.
that. But one of the things we can talk about is some moral dilemmas, right? As far as like, I know we touched on a few, but like, let's say you had the keys. Like, let's go around in a circle and kind of talk about some, personal dilemmas that you see if you were the one that had the power. So let's start with you, Knight, and we'll go in a circle and we'll finish with me last. So go ahead, Knight. What are some dilemmas that you'd have concerns of?
Well, I think that the ultimate dilemma is just the limit of knowledge, of awareness. And that's for anyone. If I'm speaking, just for myself, where is that line in the sand? Where do I draw that line in the sand as far as to utilize said Jupiter brain to accomplish whatever? Obviously, I would think I'd be trying to do some good of some sort, right? But where do I draw the line as far as with this power, with this Jupiter brain of going too far? Like you said, being almost godlike, and should any person, speaking for myself, should I even have that capability? Am I worthy of that? Can I handle that responsibility? Because once you start going down a certain path, are you able to? Ooh, hey, Connie.
Connie!
Hey,
come on, guys.
Hey, appreciate it. Hey.
Yes. All right.
Thank you so much.
All right.
You guys, we really appreciate that because we've had so
Seriously.
many people for months and months and months and months say, when are you guys going to have channel memberships? When are you guys going to have merchandise? When are you guys going to do this? When are you guys going to do that? You guys are helping us with that process.
Dude,
Denisha too.
Got another one. Let's go get him on the screen,
Wow.
Hey, Denisha.
Hey. Thank
Well,
you, Denisha.
Yeah.
To Julie, Connie, and Denisha, thank you guys so
Wow.
much for your support. We really do appreciate you
Seriously.
all. And we're
Wow.
very excited to hear what topics you want to bring to the table as well.
Yes.
You are the three
You actually,
friends that
thing,
anyone
guys,
can have.
you guys are going to have a voice as far
That's
as
right.
what we do, because we get people all the time whether it's comments, emails on social media, right in this live chat right now. There are a lot of people that want to talk about certain things, and that's great. And we try to get to as much as we can, but you guys that are the members, you
That's right.
guys are the ones that
Mhm.
we are going to spend that time to help bring about those ideas, to help bring about new angles and new possibilities for the channel, because you guys are being the ones that are able to, at least right now, that are able to be that generous. So thank you guys so much. Seriously, that's the beauty of channel memberships. It really,
Yes.
really is, because you guys are going to help us to forge ahead with what we continue to do on the channel and beyond.
Absolutely. And beyond. It's very humbling as well. It seriously is. It's very humbling for all of us. And we really appreciate it. And it really encourages us too. I mean, because we talk a lot about what we're going to do, and is this going to work, this new format and all this. It's a big gamble in a lot of ways what we're doing, and this is so encouraging. Thank you guys so
We're
much.
essentially starting from scratch.
Yes.
We're maybe even worse than from scratch.
Yeah, I mean, well, I wouldn't say that, because at least at least the channel is monetized, but it's just the concern is that like as you see, like today, there's only been like 13 to 16 people, when usually we'll have like 30 to 50 people. But we came to the conclusion that we'd rather go through this wave and the idea of like this could be bigger than what it could be if we were sticking to the path that we were currently on, the current direction. This just has more growth potential, more evergreen, more everything that could just be more beneficial for the four of us. Because yes, we could have kept on the path we were on, and for one of us it might have been great, but there's four of us, so it's like you make $100 in a month. It's like, oh cool, it's an extra $100. But then you break it down, it's like, oh no, it's really like $15 for each of us. So it's just it's just the growth, the potential, the longevity, things like that. So like when we do get these, you guys supporting us with the channel memberships and stuff, it kind of helps us sustain a little bit while we go through this kind of rebuild, so to speak. So very thankful for you guys. Seriously, thank you.
Yeah, and thank you to Connie and Julie for their comments in the chat there. I thought it's really encouraging as well.
It really, it's you guys, and we've talked about this on multiple occasions, and I know all four of us have spoken to some of you guys in the community, whether it's social media, email, live streams, whatever, on the panel even sometimes. But you guys probably will never understand the true impact that you have on us, as channel creators, as creatives. You guys, your support is beyond invaluable. And for those of you that have stuck around, for you guys that are supporting and watching and commenting and all those great things, that's what builds a successful channel. And that's probably, I don't want to speak too much for you guys, for you three, but that's probably one of the things that helped us even decide to take this plunge, is because we knew that there would be that group, that core group of folks that would be even willing to think about joining us on this new endeavor. So thank you to you guys. Seriously, it really makes a big difference, more than you probably would ever know.
Yeah, and to throw a little bit of pathos in there, there was a time where I was so worried. I was like, man, what happens after Scream 7 comes out? What are we all going to talk about? And with all of these other ventures that a lot of us are doing, all of you guys have really shown a lot of support towards all these things, and it really does mean a lot to us, so that we can keep talking a bunch of crazy bullshit on here. So thank you. Thank you for everything all of you guys do. Even just watching, it really does mean just a whole lot to all of us. But getting back to it, Night, I want to get back to your thoughts, kind of breaking down some of the moral dilemmas of this, so we can wrap the whole thing up.
No, I just think that, to me, it's a huge moral dilemma. And again, it's the whole process of, even if you start on a path to do something good with this power, with this Jupiter brain, would you be able, it's basically like you're sliding downhill. Would you be able to stop yourself? Would it eventually bring you to a point where you become that, like Craven said, that the little mustache guy, that mad scientist, that Dr. Frankenstein, right? You know, because we've seen this and time again. We've noted various examples in literature and pop culture and so forth. You know, a lot of times those individuals started out with something that was very, very simple, you know, and very worthy. But again, humanity, you know, us being human, you know, me talking about myself, would I have the ability to stop? You know, would I go beyond that line? That's, to me, that's one of the most intriguing things about it. And it is interesting, but it's even more terrifying than interesting to me. So
Yeah,
that's the way I look at it, man. I don't, you know, again, we said it earlier, we can't trust humanity, man. And there's a reason for that. Humanity has a limit. You know, we were given those limits for a reason, you know, and that's obviously beyond us, you know.
That's right. Absolutely.
100%. And, you know, just to throw my last little 2 cents in there, I really do believe it'll come down to the fact that it will turn against us at some point because it's smarter than us. I mean, like, it's just like the weakest link idea. You know what I mean? It's like if something isn't up to par with where you're at, it's going to just cut that off or overpower it, whatever. And that's just what I feel this is. It's the nuclear bomb. You know what I mean? It's like, this is a device that's so powerful and can cause so much harm. We just shouldn't touch it in the first place. That's how I feel about it's the same thing with the Jupiter brain. Like, this is even crazier than that, I would say. So I feel like this is something we should leave alone. We shouldn't actually do, but it is a very interesting thing to talk about as a thought experiment. Craven, moving on to you though, man. Moral dilemmas of the Jupiter brain. Should we invent this thing? Say fuck it, see what happens?
No.
Wow, you put it there pretty bluntly.
Yes, no. Run away, far away from the Jupiter brain. Trust me. We can't even control our laptops half the time, much less trying to control this thing. And you know, and I mentioned a little bit earlier, Night mentioned it again. I won't go to be too redundant with it, but the fact of the matter is, anyone that says I could do it, I would not make the mistakes that Mustache Man made. I believe that you believe that. And I would, but I also know for a fact that's not sustainable. And in an environment of power where it's that much autonomy, that much ultimate power, if you will, it's going to infect you. It's going to get into you. And I'm just telling you guys, we've seen it through dictatorships all through history. It's, you know, they all, you know, I don't know what all of their origin points were. I can't say that for everybody, but some of these folks I know did not intend to do things the way things ended up being. I just don't believe that.
Right.
But there they were at the end, right? I mean, so I'm saying no, we don't need to go there. Let's just, how about this, guys? Instead of trying to do the Jupiter brain, why don't we just focus on being better people? Why don't we focus on treating each other with respect in this world? How about we work on caring for each other's needs, encouraging and uplifting each other, helping any way that we can to make our world a better place? Because I believe that if we will focus on that, our reality will get better automatically. And not only that, be the people that we want to be around and we want to encourage. So I would say not to discourage pursuing science and all that, but at the end of the day, guys, when your days are over here, whatever they are, what's going to be left behind are the lives that you've impacted along your journey. And if your impact on those people's lives is negative and sour and tearing people down, that's a horrible legacy to leave. When you could also leave a legacy of uplifting people, impacting lives in ways that will outlive you. So I want to encourage everybody, myself included, let's look for opportunities to make this world better through our actions and our words and loving and caring for one another. Okay? Because that will make a bigger difference in our immediate lives than any Jupiter brain.
That's beautiful, Stephen.
Well said.
I really like that a
Well
lot.
said.
And Julie and Jamie both had some really good things to say about that. I agree, Stephen. Let's work on what we have while we have it. Yes,
Exactly.
this is what we have. A Jupiter brain is all simulated, no matter how far of reality it could simulate. You know what I mean? It's like this is what we got. Let's work with it. Jamie's
right.
also saying change starts with the individual, and I love that.
Yes.
This is a
Right.
crazy and. The one way to look at the Jupiter brain is that this is an insane and crazy way to find a correction in reality to make it better. But we can just do that on our own. We have that power as
Absolutely.
individuals.
Yes.
So I love that, Craven. That's really, really
Thank
well
you.
said.
Thank you, brother. It's from the heart, man.
Yep. Absolutely.
Facts.
Hell
But-
yeah.
Same here.
Yeah. How do you follow that up?
Well, that's it, everybody.
You
Thanks for
can't.
watching.
Hey,
It's
That's
true.
the way that's all I got to go. Now I have to be the a-hole. Thanks. Okay, so no, but no, like when you're speaking of Jupiter brain, like I agree. Like it can't. The individual would just have too much power for one person, or even one country, or even a planet. I mean, even if we were the sole planet, I mean, you're talking something. Assuming that there is other life out there in the universe, you'd have control over that, even.
Mhm.
Right? Like that's crazy to think of. But and how do you ever, even if you could gain control of it in the beginning, eventually you'd lose it, because eventually it would lose interest in you. Like you're talking about to put it in like I don't even think this is a great comparison, but it's one that people can understand. Is like, imagine an ant trying to communicate with us. Right? Like one, it wouldn't even know where to begin to communicate with us. And even if it could briefly, eventually we're just going to be like, okay, like that's done. We're done with that. And just squash that out. Like we would be literally an anthill to this thing. And it's like, at what point does that just go, all right, I'm tired of this anthill. Let's go see what's over here. And that's it. So talking about, I mean, again, you'd be talking about being able to simulate realities, right? Like, I mean, which that would be pretty cool. Like, imagine having the ability to like, hey, I want to see what I'd be like in a Scream movie, and you could literally simulate yourself into a Scream movie, or simulate yourself into like a dream world or whatever. Like, you could do all kinds of like stuff. But I mean, as with everything, there's always pros and cons, right? Like, like take like a nuclear bomb, for example, right? Like a nuke has so much destructive power, but it also, in a lot of ways, to a small scale, kind of brought everyone together and realized like that's too destructive. We shouldn't do that. Although there is always the pressing fear of like nuclear war, all of the nations pretty much came together and said, hey, we should probably not do that. We should probably not eliminate all of ourselves. So to an extent, like we all came together, but it is the threatening power. So if you had a Jupiter brain, your hope would be that you'd have like this, underlying tree, but there is still the threat of like at any moment that thing could do something, and even to a greater scale, because we wouldn't be able to fight back. At least if another country launched a nuke towards us, we could launch the nuke back. We wouldn't even be able to launch a nuke back. It would be like them launching a nuke at us, and we threw a pencil. Like it's like, well, that didn't work out. Like
Right.
So it is. I mean, there's a lot of benefits to humanity. I mean, you could cure sickness, disease, death, right? Like I mean, that goes into the dilemma of like, would you want to even live forever? But even if you did, and even if you had the thought of like, I would want to live forever, but I don't want the thought of it, then you could even just erase the thought, right? Like you could get rid of fear, anxiety, stress. Yeah. Like you could cure. You could solve a lot. Like we would be in a utopia, a genuine utopia. We'd be able to have whatever we want. Yeah, theoretically. We'd be able to have whatever we want whenever we want it. We'd be able to, there wouldn't need to be this divide. There would be no poor. There would be no rich. Everyone would be on the same playing field with that. which also begs the question of, would governments and the power that be, would they even allow that, right? Because they would essentially be stripping themselves of their advantage. But just again, like with all things, there's always a pro and a con, right? A gun can be helpful. It provides protection, security. It has a thing, but it also has the power to destroy and kill and things like that. So it'll be interesting. We'll see. Like Kanye said, no one man should have all that power.
That's right.
Man, not a guy to quote in 2023, dude.
Hey, he's quieted down. He's been better. The simulation did it to him. It's not his fault.
Man, you had me going there for a second, but then you quoted Kanye. Anyway, okay. Kidding. Closing the stream out, though, what else has everyone got going on tonight? Starting with Craven.
What is today? Monday?
Monday.
Yeah.
Manic Monday, dude.
It's Manic Monday.
Driving down the highway singing it.
That's right. That's exactly. So tonight, I will be streaming tonight on my channel at 9:00 Central Time. Going to be really just kind of keeping it loose, Q&A, talking Scream, post-strike. It's a Wonderful Knife for those who've seen it. It's going to be just a hodgepodge of stuff. So if you wanted to come hang out for some horror talk, come join me tonight at 9:00. You never know. There may even be someone knocking on the door at some point. You just can never tell what'll happen. And lastly, I do want to mention tomorrow night, I am very excited. I'm going to be having a guest at 8:30 Central tomorrow. And her name is Tiana P. Gordon. She is the production designer for the new film, It's a Wonderful Knife. And I'm so excited to talk to her about the sets, all of the stuff that they did for the movie. It's going to be fantastic. So if you want to come and get some amazing insight, even if you haven't seen the movie, come see it. We're not going to talk spoilers. We're going to be talking just about the production design of the movie more than story. So come check it out. Would love to have you guys there, and it's going to be a blast. And it's her first ever interview. I didn't even know that. She said, this is my first interview. So I'm very excited to have her on as her very first interview. So it's going to be fun. So let's show up and show support.
Hell yeah. That's awesome, man. Very nice. Very nice. Fates, are you deciding anything tonight?
He's always deciding things.
Well, everything's always constantly being decided. No, nothing major. Videos, putting things together, work, family life. So nothing crazy going on. I actually don't have any other live streams tonight, which is good. So nice. Getting caught up on stuff. But what about you, Nate?
In an hour and a half, we'll be doing our Monday night slasher movie club. A lot of fun stuff we're going to be doing tonight, and we also have I believe my good buddy Dan, Mr. Dan, he's got something that he's going to kind of spin off from the discussion. So we're going to be hanging out, and it always feels like a week is too long. So I'm always excited to kind of just hang out and talk to folks and, discuss the movie we've got tonight, which is The Strangers, Pray at Night. And who knows, we might be getting into a little bit of the discussion of the whole new project coming along, and should it even be? And if so, why? All that good stuff. So it'll be fun.
Hell yeah, man. Well, check out all these fun things. And old Jake here is going live in about 20 minutes. So check that out. If you feel so inclined, I'm going live with Child of the Corn, Anthony, good buddy of the channel. So I'm very excited about that. We're going to talk a little Scream, a little bit about the Terrifier 3 teaser that also just dropped today publicly. So very excited to rip that thing apart and give our theories about what's happening there. But as always, the Lethal Collective has spoken. Make sure to subscribe. I don't know, hit that join button if you feel so inclined. Thank you so much to all the new members tonight. And thank you for watching just in general. You know, as we said earlier, this is a big new step for all of us. And it's going to be a little difficult for a little while here. So thank you for your support. Thanks for watching. Thank you to all our members. And as always, the Lethal Collective has spoken. I said that twice. Peace out, everybody.
Bye, guys.